Good day, ma'am. My name is Ebi. I'm from True Legal Media. We're an online magazine. Thank you for granting us this opportunity to interview you. Can you introduce yourself to our readers, please?
I'm Nomsa Skweyiya from Cape Town.
Okay. What is your professional career?
I'm a teacher by profession. I'm currently involved in business.
Okay. What kind of business are you involved in?
It's construction business, housing construction.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit? Let's talk about the teaching profession first before we come into construction. That seemed to be the basis of your life.
Yes, I taught for 15 years. I started at a very early age and taught at high school and went to become a curriculum advisor for the Western Cape Education Department for the adult basic education section. After that, I left and then joined my training and development services company, which I started in 2001.
Okay. So, how did you get into construction business?
I was training a lot of people from various sectors, and I got training by the International Labour Organization to train people to start and improve their businesses. During that phase, I came across a lot of people who were in the construction industry, and I saw the gap. I felt that there were few women in that industry, and I started construction management. I started getting involved into construction.
Aside being in construction and teaching, have you worked in any other field or any other related company or something that have been as challenging as construction and teaching?
Yes, I worked for the ILO to train employers' organizations. Employers' organizations are organizations like NAFCOC, FABCOS. I also trained in Swaziland as well with the International Labour Organization. I also went to work for ArcelorMittal, which is Saldanha Steel, as a transformation manager. That was one of the nightmares of my life. That's where I sort of experienced racism for the second or third time in my life. That was the worst one ever, because I was the only black person and woman amongst 7 white males as executive managers. So you couldn't really implement your transformation regardless of the fact that you were employed there to do transformation. Because you didn't really have decision-making powers. Decisions were made for you. Some of the meetings you were not even involved. You just see, oh, somebody has been employed, somebody has been promoted, make recommendations. None of your inputs were sort of valued. And at the end of the day, you have to find yourself really fighting now, fighting for the space of your people. And unfortunately, most of the time, the people that you were fighting for would also fight against you, because they would be used to turn against you. And now you say, where am I now? You find yourself in a different space. I was deployed in Parliament to represent ArcelorMittal as a government relations person. That one was a very, very difficult one as well, as part of my portfolio, because at the time there was the conflict between Kumba and Mittal. And unfortunately, when I joined Mittal, when my CEO, Nyembezi, joined Mittal, the Kumba thing was long there. So we didn't really have history about this whole thing, but we stood up on our feet and tried whatever we could to make the relations between government and Mittal work. Because initially, Mittal did not have any relationships with government, and they didn't see any need to be involved with government, because they felt that they were an independent company and they didn't have anything to do with government. Although IDC owned a percentage of Mittal as well, but that didn't count for them. They just wanted to do their thing. So that was also a very difficult portfolio for me, because you find yourself wondering, you get all this information, you build all these relationships, you brought ministers to Mittal for them to try and align themselves with transformation, BEE codes and all those things. But at the end of the day, they take decisions outside that. Some of the things that were very difficult were, it's when the Department of Labor would come to do assessments. People would thumbsuck the information, and you would just see there the information is. Sometimes you are not even part of the presentations. Although you are the transformation manager, they would develop their own, and You would see, oh, it's gone, it's finished, recommendations were made, although they were not the true reflection of what was going on in the company.
So, what is one of the biggest lessons you think you learned from working at that kilometer that has helped you today in business?
Okay, number one, in business, you have to stay focused. Number two, you don't, the relationships that you build in business, you have to keep them. And the racism, it's something that you cannot fight alone. But if you are alone, you have to be very strategic. Try and get buy-in from the people around you. Because I must say it, with time, I managed to get buy-in from a lot of white people there. Even my general manager, I must say it, he had his heart in the right place. But unfortunately for him, he was surrounded by people who were not really for transformation. So I've learned the fact that you can't do it alone. If you do it alone, you have to find a way of being strategic, lobbying people to come to your side. Do it slowly. Don't be aggressive. Although at the end of the day, you are your results. You need you need results. You need to make sure that you achieve what you went there for. You need to achieve your goals. So you can't be kind and not be sort of strict. You have to be firm and fair at the same time.
Okay, what in your opinion should the government do and the private sector to help women who are in the similar position which you were back when you were working at Kilometer?
Number one, government needs to do proper monitoring and evaluation, especially in companies like Kilometer, because this you get appointed there. I was there, and you would sit there for a week or two. Nobody cares about you. You are just sitting there. You don't have a computer. You don't have nothing. You don't have a job description. So you are there as a person, a trophy, like a face for that company, that at least they've got a black face. And then after that, they frustrate you. Once you start asking questions, then trouble starts. So government needs to do the right thing. They need to check the BEE scorecards of these companies if they are real. Number two, M&E programs. Make sure that you get into these companies. People do their thing. You don't sit in an office and get a written report and walk out of the company. Do your homework first before you even go to that company. Interview the various managers in the portfolios so that you can get a balanced feedback. To empower women, it's not only sending people to school. There were people who came there with engineering qualifications, young women, but they were frustrated because they would be pushed towards the back of the company. Some of them wouldn't even get projects, although they are engineers. And a person would come and sit in your office and say, I've been here from 8 to 4, but I'm not doing anything. So government need to make sure that there is a relationship between government and these companies.
Can we talk about your educational background?
I got my secondary teacher's diploma from Eastern College, Boxback. And then I studied for a BA degree whilst I was working as a teacher with UNISA. Then I went to UCT for my BA degree. After UCT, I was identified by the ILO to do some training for employers' organizations. First of all, I was trained as a trainer for the ILO. The course was called Start and Improve Your Business. Later on, I was sent to Turin to do business development services for the ILO. So I was trained as a business development consultant. I got my certificate at Turin, and then came back and did some work for the ILO up to Swaziland. I did a lot of other short courses: construction management, BEE champions course, BEE masters course, because my intentions of getting deep into the DE champions and masters course, I wanted to have enough understanding as to what BE is all about. How do we need to implement? So I designed my own programs from getting those courses. So if things are done right, I know exactly this is what needs to be done. This is what cannot be done. For example, when you come with a BE certificate with an all-white company and you've got level 1, and when you look at this all-white company, not even management, black management on the board, you look at that, you say, the very face of the company is telling you it cannot be BE level 1. But unfortunately, with big companies, when those companies that are, I don't know where they get those certificates, when they submit those certificates, they don't do checks. They just take the certificate and put it there and say, these people are level 1, they are supposed to get the same opportunities as black people. So those are the things that empowered me, the courses that I took, and I feel empowered because I can challenge anyone when it comes to an empowerment program.
Okay, I'm going to take you back to many years ago. As a black person in South Africa, we know a lot of people were in political activism. Can you tell us about that if you were involved in any way?
Yes, I was at a very, very early age. I was in grade 8. My sister was an activist. She, in Queenstown, she was involved in burning of halls and stuff. I would run away. One day when the police came to our house, she was not there. I was on my pajamas with my uncle. So when they got there, they asked, where's Tembeka? And then my uncle said, no, Tembeka is not there. I said, no, this is Tembeka. Wake up, wake up. I went to the police van on my pajamas. When I got in there, how my science teacher was also here. And then he opened his eyes and looked at me. And then I sat there. He said to me, you have to, I don't know what to say to you, but this is going to be a tough one. We were taken to a farm at Esbeleni. And I think that's where the special branches were staying. We were asked questions. Unfortunately, they were asking questions from a person who did not know much about what was going on. And that was the beginning of my political life or involvement.
Okay, so you've affiliated yourself to which political party in South Africa?
In the ANC. I was involved from that day because all the other people were left there. I was the only one who remained there because I didn't have enough information. So for them, they thought that I was hiding something. And when I was sitting there in that cell with few people, they started educating me about a lot of things, and they told me about my sister's involvement because my sister was sort of a dodgy person because she didn't want to tell us about her stuff. So from there, I started getting conscientized and I started getting stronger and stronger. So we left that farm after 5 days and nobody knew where we were. We were in another farm.
How old were you?
I was 13 at the time. We were in another farm where we stayed for another week with my pajamas and nothing else and my shoes.
Did your parents know where you were?
No, nobody knew. So the next morning, when we were about to be taken home, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. We were taken into this police van and then we were dropped outside our houses. So when I knocked, my mother was so surprised. 2 o'clock? I said, no, I was scared. And then I started sleeping. And I did not know that the worst was still coming. So it was coming and going now. I had to attend meetings now. I had to sometimes be given stuff that I did not even know what it was. Nomsa, take this bag. I was very tiny. Take this bag. You know where to take this bag to. Just go. Somebody will come. I went to Park Station. I think I was in grade 10 when I went to Park Station with a bag. And I did not know who was going to take the bag from me in Park Station. I was standing there and then somebody just took the bag and left me there. Said nothing. And then thereafter I went back to the train. So those are the things that I actually went through. In grade 12, my mother took me away from Queenstown to Whittlesea, a small Anyana town, where she thought that I was going to be able at least to finish grade 12. And when we got there, unfortunately, that was one of the most unfortunate places that I went to. The Toy Toy started there that same year. And I ended up in Middle Drift prison. And Middle Drift was a very new prison. We were the first people to open Middle Drift. And at the time, Lennox Sebe was the chief in the Eastern Cape. And we stayed. When we got at Middledrift, some of the people were very injured because they were chamboked, because people killed the policemen around the police station. There was that commotion. But at the end of the day, my group ended up in Middledrift. And the parents did not know, because we left Whittlesea police station late, 12 o'clock in the evening. They took us with various vans. And we went. I only knew that we were in Middledrift. When we walked in there, I saw Middledrift prison. Unfortunately, some of the parents got their children dead on the mountain where we thought we were hiding. And some of the parents gave up, like my parents. They started giving up because they couldn't find me anywhere. You couldn't tell them. We were lucky on our first day there because we arrived on a Sunday. There was a magistrate daughter called Pinky. Pinky was badly injured. They broke her leg and all those things. She couldn't walk. So the magistrate came Sunday late after we arrived. I think he normally was doing his visits at that time. It's only when he saw that, my child is also here, and then he turned like this. Why are you keeping the children like this? This child cannot even walk. And then they had to take some of the comrades to the hospitals, because Pinky had to go to the hospital. And then she brought a big break to a lot of people, because people were badly injured. So after 2 or 3 months, I went to court. That's only then that my parents started seeing that I was still alive. So when we went to court, my grandpa moved from, he was sitting in the grass there with my mom. He ran towards the van when he saw me. And then they pushed him away. He was a priest. And then we walked in. Then I was sort of a bit lucky because I was 16. So now they had to juggle around because I was underage to go back to the cells. And people say, no, she's doing grade 12. I mean, she's also supposed to be moving with the others. Fortunately, I was one of the people who got a bail. But unfortunately, we were sort of... we were not allowed to go to Queenstown, to my hometown. We were only allowed to stay in Whittlesea every morning to go to the police station and report until the end of the case. So we had to move from the police. It was not an easy time for the parents and even for us. After I passed matric, I wanted to be a pharmacist, but my results now didn't allow me, because we came out a week or 2 weeks before the exams. So we went to write exams. The results were not very good. So when I wanted to repeat grade 12, my parents said, what if the same thing happens next year? So it's best if you go and do teaching. I went. That's how I got into the teaching profession. I went by default, okay, but I enjoyed it anyway.
So how did you get into construction? Let's talk about your life in construction.
Construction. I trained people. I saw a gap in the market. I started my construction company initially by training people. And when I got into the construction industry, I realized that it was not an easy industry to be involved in, because there was a lot of discrimination, there was a lot of harassment, you name any bad thing, because our male counterparts, that black males, saw us, number one, as a threat, number two, as people that were confused, that we didn't know what we were doing. Even if you employ them, they would do funny things and not do the same quality of work that they would do for a white person, because they wanted you out of the space. So I saw, no, this was challenging, not only because you don't have the skills that you needed for the industry, because I used to train people to tell them, you don't have to be an engineer to own an engineering company, because you can always buy the skills and pay the people. So the construction industry is a very tricky industry, and government created a lot of opportunities.
Okay, so how were you elected? I think you were the chairperson of Women in Construction in the Western Cape. How did that come about?
Yes, after I joined SAWIC, I got...
What is SAWIC?
South African Women in Construction. I got very much involved in terms of now going out there with the chairperson, Kosima Singa, and the others to go and negotiate for opportunities for women in the various companies. And then when the election time came, I was elected as the chairperson for the province and the national secretary for SAWIC. That was the most difficult part because now people had expectations. People expected you to come with opportunities. People expected you to do the tenders for them. Some people don't understand that empowerment organizations are there to create space for you to get opportunities, not to do the work for you. So it was a very challenging portfolio. I worked very closely with the National Minister, Togo Didiza, and also the Provincial Minister, Marius Fransman.
You're talking about Marius Fransman. I heard there was a subsidiary organization which he created, and people were not very happy because they say he appointed somebody into the position who happened to be, is it a colored or something, and that was like undermining your position. What do you say about that?
No, my understanding was different because Marius and I had a lot of discussions before even women in construction came to being. Because number one, it was difficult to work with SAWIC because everything about SAWIC was centralized. SAWIC was literally managed nationally. We were managing the branches, but we didn't really have power. There was no account for SAWIC Western Cape. The account was for the national office. So you couldn't really empower your people the way you wanted to. So that's why he decided to come up with Women in Construction as an organization to empower local women in the province. And we had a very good relationship with Doris and Marius as well. Marius wouldn't, because he initiated WIC, ignore SAWIC. No. He treated us, he wanted databases to be sent to Doris, whether the database is from SAWIC or from anywhere, as long as it is a women-owned database. And even the opportunities that he came up with, we negotiated a number of them, like the Mama Special. Doris was present, myself and Marius. We had a very good discussion with the executive of the Western Cape to say, we need the Mama Special. He created the Mama Special. The Mama Special wanted at least 100% black woman-owned companies to participate. And companies participated, companies tendered. Some of those companies have grown big. Some of those companies didn't grow because at the end of the day, it's not about giving, it's about tendering. And tendering has some procedures. He also organized with SAWIC and Women in Construction tendering workshops, marketing workshops, various workshops to make sure that people were empowered. He also brought on board SAFSEC, the engineering organization. SAFSEC also took some of SAWIC companies and empowered them, take them under their arm and started working with them. For me, there was no undermining or racism in this whole thing because the appointment of Doris, from my point of view, would help us to get more colored women on board. Okay. Because people people look for their own. If he could have appointed another black people, the colored people might have felt that, yeah, we don't have a space here. So for me, that sort of mix was a good mix.
Okay, as an ANC member in the Western Cape, what do you say about the division that I hear? I don't know, they say there's a division between colored and black people in the Western Cape. Do you have anything to that respect?
Yes, there is. And unfortunately, maybe I'm a coward in a way because I experienced this. I tried to assist in my own way when I was still leading SAWIC to say, guys, let's work together. Because with the colored people, number one, they came from better schools than us. Their husbands are artisans. They studied in schools where they could get skills, construction skills. In our schools, our husbands did not get such. Bantu education did not accommodate artisans and all those things. So for me, if we work together, they bring the skills from their homes because most of them are working with their sons and husbands and all that. So if we work together, we would come up with a better mix. But people still felt that no, Western Cape is a colored-dominated area. It is a colored-dominated area. Like Eastern Cape is a black-dominated area. But if you go to Gauteng is a black-dominated area. But Gauteng is doing better business than us here in the Western Cape because they mix easily. the issue of the divisions within the ANC itself regarding with coloureds and Africans, that division can only be closed by the leadership. For as long as the leadership is fighting amongst themselves amongst racial lines, it means that we've got a problem. They need to close the gap and say, okay, guys, let's be one, and try and put a move forward so that at the end of the day, everybody can identify with us. You've got very good leadership staying in the Western Cape, like Trevor Manuel, like a lot of them, or Tony Yengen. You've got a lot of those people. But if you as the leadership are so divided, what do you expect from the people? At the end of the day, you are working against each other, and you are working against your own organization. Because if you say people must not support this one, you are saying the people must not support the ANC. And then how can the ANC win the province then?
So in your own opinion, what would you think the leadership of ANC in the Western Cape should do in order to unite the colored and the black people?
Number one, they need to sort of host joint events most of the time. Because if you can look at the Caps and Klops and no, for the first, you will see colored people. If you see black people, it's just a few of them. If they can find a way of bringing these people together, when you've got an event, you can clearly see when an event has been organized by Marias, you can clearly see when it has been organized by Mcebisi, you see the racial lines along these people, which these people are operating. So we don't need that division, because people are just following what their leaders are about. So they must try and close the gap by coordinating common meetings amongst the various branches. Maybe you get to the Dula Oma region and another region coming together for, even if it's just a get-together, or something like a workshop, conflict management workshops. Try to bring the people together, because you can't win if you are so divided.
Okay. Let's go back to your own personal life. How do you have your personal company? Let's talk about your company. How is that doing?
For now, it has its own challenges. It was doing well until I had some tragedy in my life where my child was shot. So I think that depression period created big problems for the company. We ended up making many, many mistakes. But before that, we were doing quite well. But that one really just threw us off the line. As a result, now we are trying to get partners that can sort of meet us halfway, so that sort of we can move on again and get to where we need to be.
So you have some tenders or contract that you're looking for investors to invest with you?
Yes. We've got a contract currently, a housing contract, where we got an investor that really, unfortunately, came at the wrong time when we were still under our bed space and messed us more. And that one ended up badly, because we ended up having monies locked in trust accounts, us not being able to pay certain things. But we are soldiering on, and we intend to stay in that area and build more houses. The area has a capacity of 4,000 houses, of which any investor, if you walk in there and see the potential, that's where you need to invest your money in.
So in monetary terms, how much are we talking about?
In terms of monies that can be made, in terms of that.
But the value of the contract?
The value of the contract. The value of the contract that we have now is about, the value of the contract that we have now is about, excluding the others that are still to come, the value of the contract is about 5M, not 5, it's about 7.
Okay.
7.
So what is more important to you in your life? Mission, core value, vision, profit, or all of the above?
Number one, for me, it's all of the above, because you need to have a vision and drive that vision. Because if you say it's profit, how are you going to get there if you don't have a vision? You have to put your vision and work towards your vision. So your mission takes you to your vision. You also need to have good values for you to be able to be a good business person. You will always get criticism from other people, but you need to handle those criticism well. They must not affect your performance, they must not affect your company.
So what do you think should be a foundation for a young South African female looking and listening to you speaking now to anybody out there who is listening in terms of them choosing their own career? What can they take from you?
Number one, sit down, look at yourself, and look at your strengths and weaknesses. So, whatever you are passionate about, whatever you are good at, try and drive that particular part of your life. Your weaknesses, you can turn them to be your strengths. Don't imitate people, be yourself. Don't say, because this one is in construction, I also want to get into construction. That might not suit you, and you'll end up frustrated. Try and identify your niche and move on. Education first. Whether you are at school, whether you are running your small business, because some of the qualifications that I acquired, I was already working. I was in my business, but I told myself that education, education, education. Education, implementation, empowerment. So if you implement what you are busy learning or studying, then it means you've got the potential to grow. Because these days people would say, I want to work in parliament. I want to be a director and work in parliament. And then they would get the shortcut. They know someone in parliament and they get the job. And then the next thing, people don't deliver there. And then everybody is watching. How did this person get to that position? That person cannot even deliver. And you find out some people, they've got qualifications that they cooked, don't get in that kind of a space. It's a bad space. Because people easily find out that you don't have the qualifications that you are claiming. So, and then other people take the shortcut of getting richer husbands. I want a rich husband. There's nothing like a rich husband. Unless you want to be exploited for the rest of your life, mentally, physically, you'll get all sorts of abuse because you can't stand up on your own. As you get married, your husband might die any day, something might happen, you might get divorced. What is going to happen to you? What is going to happen to your children? So at the end of the day, make sure that you study hard, you work smart.
Okay. Can you name a person who have had a tremendous impact on you in your career? Maybe a family member, an expert in the field, or somebody who you look up to?
Yes, I've got a number of people to sort of to mention here. My number one is my mom. My mom was a single parent. She brought us up. My father died in 1969. I was still very young. But my mom managed to bring up 5 kids. She was a very, very hardworking person. And all of them, they got qualifications and move on. She was one of my number one people that I always looked up to. She would come back from work, bake some cakes, go and sell, and then to make more money from what she was getting. And then there's also a person, my CEO that I met at ArcelorMittal, Nonkululeko Nyembezi, very hardworking, strong, firm, strict woman. She knows exactly what she wants in life. And when I was looking at her, I said to myself, I wish more women in South Africa would be like this. He would manage that all-white team in the national executive of ArcelorMittal, as if it's the same race as she is. So that one also is one of the people that I'm looking up to. My husband, Gideon, a very strong person, very motivating, but what I like the most about him is when you are not doing the right thing, he tells you straight that this one is not going to work.
So I take it you're married, and your husband and children, do they support your choosing career?
Yes, very much so, and they helped a lot. They help a lot in the company. Even the late one was working for Old Mutual, but every Saturday he would come and work at the company.
So finally, how do you balance work and other activities with your family?
My family. We've got our family times. We always make sure supper time we eat together around the same table. We eat, we chat, we talk about our daily stuff. Maybe sometimes I'm out of town. They would phone me when that time comes. We eating now and all that. We chat and chat and chat. And we always make time for ourselves and make sure that we keep the family unit together.
final word of inspiration for women, young women in South Africa, and even men? Maybe something that can promote the relationship between men and women from what your experience.
Yes, men and women, yeah, especially young men. There are young men now who are out there to look for rich ladies. I'm not sure what is happening anymore because there is nothing like a rich husband or rich woman. The person might have the money, the person might be rich, the money is not yours. Even if it's in community of property. That is a struggle that I don't think you need in your life when you have to, maybe something happens and you have to move away. You have to have something that you stand on, meaning that you have to be educated. Whether you are a girl or you are a boy, young man, young woman, get educated, start your business, continue with your education, go get into your profession, dedicate yourself. Don't just go around there criticize people because we are so good, especially we as women. I'm not very much familiar with the male folk. The ones that I normally mix with, they are not like the women that I normally mix with. People who are always negative about whatever you are doing, criticizing that person and that person and that person. The team that you need around you or people that you need around you are the people that are going to say to you, this is not right. When you start taking tech, they say, this is not right. This is not the right direction. When you do good, they say to you, hey, my friend, you've done very well today. You need people that are going to motivate you. So go out there, look for friends, real friends. If you can be of value to people who are on the opposite direction of your road, try and get them to understand who they are and understand what God wants them to do. God has a purpose for all of us. It's just that sometimes we are so caught up in criticizing other people and not focusing in what God wants us to do. So young people, do your thing as long as it is going to bring growth to you.
Thank you. This is the end of the interview. Thank you for coming.
I went over the 13 minutes.
I must see.
Oops, this one.
You went over. You should have told.